I didn't have my mic on. Call the meeting to order. This is the regular session of September 8th, regular meeting of the Marion City Council. If you guys would all rise and do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, but wait on our last member to get here. Roll call.
Ms. Pazor?
Here.
Ms. Etzel?
Present.
Mr. Spinks?
Present.
Mayor Abowasley? Mr. Brand?
Here.
Mr. Sternad?
Present.
Mr. Draper?
Barely.
It's good to have you here, Paul.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Yeah. You all would pause for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. I guess I should have said, for those of you who don't know, I'm Joe Spinks, the Mayor Pro Tem. The mayor is vacationing this week, so he asked me to stand in. I told him to leave his phone at home, and I got a call at 2 o'clock already today, so he can't turn loose. So. But anyway, we have a couple of proclamations tonight. One of them is the Constitution Week, and I believe is there anyone here for this one? Okay. I will read that one, and then for the next one, I believe someone's here for the next one, for the Five Seasons Stand Down Day. Is there someone here for that? Maybe not. Okay, so this is, whereas the tradition of celebrating the Constitution was started many years ago by the Daughters of the American Revolution, or DAR, and whereas in 1955, the Daughters petitioned the Congress to set aside September 17th through the 23rd annually to be dedicated for the observance of Constitution Week, which was later adopted by the United States Congress and signed into public law number 915 on August 2nd of 1956 by President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And whereas the aim of the celebration are to, one, emphasize citizens' responsibilities for protecting and defending the Constitution, preserving it for posterity, and inform the people that the Constitution is the basis for America's great heritage and the foundation for our way of life. And number three, encourages the study of historical events which led to the framing of the Constitution in September of 1787. And whereas the United States of America functions as a republic under the Constitution, which is the oldest document still in active use that outlines the self-government of a people, and whereas today the Constitution stands as an icon for freedom for people around the world. Now, therefore, I, Joe Spinks, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Marion, Iowa, do proclaim that September 17th through the 23rd of 2016 as Constitution Week in the City of Marion, Iowa. And we encourage all citizens to take time this week to reflect on our heritage of freedom. I think that's, in the approaching elections and everything, that's a very, very good thing to pause and think about where our country has gone and where it's going. The next one is the 11th annual Five Seasons Stand Down Day. Did anyone come in for that? Okay. This is whereas Lynn County Veterans Affairs, in partnership with the Cedar Rapids Metro Area Veteran Council and the Iowa City VA Medical Center and the Lynn County Continuum of Care, will hold Lynn County's 11th annual stand down for homeless and near homeless veterans and non-veterans, And whereas stand down is a term used in times of war in which exhausted combat units come off the battlefield to rest and recover in a place of safety. And whereas, according to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs, the first stand down was organized in 1988 by a group of Vietnam veterans in San Diego. And whereas today, stand down also refers to a community-based program that provides assists homeless and near homeless veteran transition to community living by providing access to human service agencies, including benefits, counseling, Social Security and veterans, employment and training assistance, eye exams, screenings, health care screenings, housing services, legal assistance, mental health treatment, and substance abuse counseling. And whereas stand down have been used in an effective tool in reaching out to homeless veterans nationally, reaching more than 200,000 veterans and their family members. Now I, Joe Spinks, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Marion, Iowa, do proclaim that September 9th as 11th Annual 5-Season Stand Down Day. And we encourage residents to recognize the positive impact of this event to assist veterans and to express gratitude to those who have served and continue to serve. Thank you very much for that service that the veterans certainly give to us. And I think we have two veterans on council here, so on the wings.
Yes. Did you ever stand down? Sit down, but not stand.
So next then is citizens' presentations, comments, or petitions that are not on the agenda tonight. You may come forward and give those. Anyone want to speak? I don't see anyone rushing up here. There may be on some of the actual ordinances and things that we do, there may be time if you have questions or comments at that time on things that are on the agenda. With not, Councilman Stinad, would you, is there anything that needs to be pulled from the consent calendar? Let it be known now. Okay, Grant. Consent calendar, please.
Your Honor, I have a motion to approve consent calendar as presented. These will be items number 1 through 31 to include resolution number 25528 through resolution number 25561.
Second. There's a second. Moved and seconded. Comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of the consent calendar as read, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Pazur.
Yes, Your Honor. I move to approve the following liquor license application. A new application for Class B beer permit with additional privilege for outdoor service for Another Road, LLC, doing business as Another Road Brewing, 631 9th Street. Event is the Oktoberfest on September 17th.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments? Hearing those, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Edsel.
Yes, Your Honor. I move to approve ordinance number 16-11, amending Chapter 105 of the Solid Waste Ordinance and establishing base monthly collection fees at $14.25 and eliminating reduced monthly fees. This is the initial consideration.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments on this?
Now, are they going to be made available to handicapped or disabled, or because you mentioned
No, the way the ordinance is constructed, no. This will eliminate all reduced monthly fees.
Okay, now, you know, there was that thing in Cascade where they had the problem, and this is why this all came up. But that was giving the reduced fees to employees who were not 65 or older or disabled, and it kind of was a little iffy.
That was one of the issues. The other issue is that they were giving reduced fees to senior citizens, anybody over 65, and the recommendation from the state auditor was to eliminate all reduced monthly fees,
Thank you.
even for handicapped or disabled people.
Now, is the water department going to maintain?
They
that?
are reviewing, excuse me, they're reviewing that information right now.
Thank you.
If the legislature changes, we can change back, I assume,
Yes.
if they suddenly allow.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of ordinance 16-11 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It carries.
Your Honor,
Yes?
for the next item, the public hearing, that was supposed to be removed from the agenda. Verizon did not get the revised contract through their legal department in time
Okay,
for us to review before the public hearing, so I asked to remove that from the
okay.
consent calendar.
So
Thank
we
you.
want to remove items 1 and 2 in the fire section then.
Now, will that be for next meeting? Will they have this stuff ready for next meeting?
They did not say, hopefully, they will have it done by then.
And just for the council's information, the reason that it's still on the agenda is because the public hearing notice was published. So just in case anybody came that wanted to object, we'd had to print it on the agenda. But the council is free to remove it without taking action on it, because anybody that would have attended to have the public hearing is here and would be able to address the council.
I guess, what's council view? Do you want to remove it or?
You have two options. You can remove it or you can open and close it.
What do you want to do?
Just
I
remove it.
would remove it.
I move we remove
Okay.
it.
Is that what?
Second.
Okay,
I do have one thing though. I'm figuring at $4,800 a month, and that's for 3 years, right?
That's correct.
And it's $57,600 a year. So that's a nice piece of change that
Yes, it
they're
is.
going to be paying the city.
Yes.
And they were fixing part of the parking lot too?
And they're fixing our
Yeah.
parking lot also, yes.
that's a win-win.
We like Verizon.
It's a win-win.
So you get all that money, don't you, Chief?
No.
Nice try. Okay, moving on to the planning and development. I'll open another. Can I open this one? The public hearing is open regarding the request to amend the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan for property located at 1100 Meadowview Drive, Marion, Iowa, from neighborhood commercial to corridor commercial, and rezone property from C1 neighborhood commercial to C3 general commercial. The public hearing is open. Anyone want to speak in favor of this? Anyone want to speak against this proposal? Seeing none, public hearing is now closed.
Joe, before you move on the items under police and fire, there was a motion and a second made. However, the council didn't take a vote. So if you want to take a vote to close that motion and second.
Oh, okay. My mistake. So I guess you did that, didn't you? You made it as a motion.
I seconded it.
And she seconded it. Any discussion on that then?
And I guess just to confirm, it includes items 1 and 2.
1 and 2, correct. Any discussion? All those in favor of tabling that?
Yeah.
Removing it.
Removing it, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now, Councilor Stanad.
Your Honor, I have resolution number 25563 approving a request to amend the future land use map of the Marion Comprehensive Plan for property located at 1100 Meadowview Drive, Marion, Iowa, from neighborhood commercial to corridor commercial.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Comments or questions on this one?
Just out of curiosity, now this is the vet clinic, correct? Yeah, well, this is going to be directed at the police. What procedure would be necessary to get this clinic placed on a, so that there was a, well, that's gone. So that if there was a break-in.
Alarm system?
Alarm system, thank you. Have they contacted you at all on that?
No, they have not. Alarms are typically managed through a third-party vendor, to which then they call.
Now, that would be fine, except that is a medical clinic, and there are drugs involved, and I just think that it would behoove them to really look at the police department, since there are police out there, and the response time would be really good.
We handle, there's pharmacies in town that are also managed and maintained by a third-party vendor too. The police department doesn't monitor alarms any longer. We used to do that about 15 years ago, but we got away from it for a liability purpose, just in case our infrastructure went down and we were unaware of that. So we walked away from it and had third-party vendors take that on. It goes from jewelry shops that might be in town to pharmaceuticals to everyone, banks. A third-party vendor is responsible for that.
Do you have a list of those?
We don't have a list of everybody there's an alarm list, but we don't have, if they call in, then we respond to it as anybody.
Well, it's just that that's kind of a iffy neighborhood as far as I think you get a lot of calls down there, and just want to keep.
I believe that we'd have to change the city policy, the city ordinances on that. But right now, there's liability if the police department gets into that type of business.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know if it'd be any different than previous. I don't know if that'd be any different than previous use, because it was Mercy before. I'm sure they had some.
Well,
drugs
yeah,
on
but
here, too.
I think that people would look at a veterinarian's clinic as being a little more open than.
There's also a firearms store down there, to which they're also monitored by a third-party vendor.
I wouldn't mess with one of those, though.
I'm just saying there's a lot of different businesses down there that we take into consideration, from the convenience stores to the firearms, and obviously a place that's holding drugs.
Any other questions on 25563? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Your Honor, I have the first consideration of Ordinance 16-12, amending the Marion Code of Ordinances regarding a request to rezone property located at 1100 Meadowview Drive, Marion, Iowa, from C1 Neighborhood Commercial to C3 General Commercial. And this is Meyer Gast, and like I said, first consideration.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion? Discussion? Not hearing any. All those in favor of ordinance number 16-12 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Ordinance carries. Councilman Edsel.
Yes, this is resolution number 25564, approving purchase agreement for property located at 1483 through 1493 6th Avenue, Marion, Iowa. Meyer Gast.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
How much?
$161,000.
And that's for both lots?
Correct.
Thank you.
Anything else? Not hearing any. This is resolution 25564. Did you?
Just so the council's aware, and I talked about this on Tuesday, and I know there's folks in the audience related to this, that there's also will be paid out will be reestablishment and relocation assistance, and then moving expenses. So there'll be more costs associated with this as we move forward. If you recall, on Tuesday I had indicated that there would be additional costs as we move forward with this one.
It will be additional costs?
Correct. We're just buying the property at this point. There's reestablishment and relocation assistance is provided, similar to the tanning salon that we worked with and the Whetstone Group.
Are you
and so on.
doctor? Now, when the OK Corral got moved to out on 6th Avenue, and the city purchased all new coolers, dispensers of beer, etc., for them, are we going to be purchasing new things for you also?
First off, name and address, and
Becky Meyer Gas, 1493 6th Avenue.
thank you.
And we actually have not agreed. I have not accepted the proposal yet from Tom. So I wanted to mention that. I know you're just agreeing for the agreement, but I haven't accepted it. Okay. And number two, there is things we have to do, because when I remodeled my business where I'm at now, I did a lot of that work myself, from putting up my lead line drywall to redoing a lot of the walls. And so this is, and I know Tom probably doesn't understand it, but to me this is really hard. And even though the building potentially I'm going to move to is really nice, it's still hard for me.
Sure.
And a lot of that we haven't discussed yet. The person that was supposed to meet me on Tuesday of this week was unable to make it, so we actually didn't have that meeting.
So as indicated, the offer, it's a purchase agreement. We could come to the council beforehand and say, or we could make the offer to the client as we've done before, subject to city council approval. In this instance, we have the appraisal and the value, so we're making the offer. If there's a change to this, we would bring it back for formal discussion and approval as well. But if we are available and we have all the information we have to make an offer, we like to bring it to council before we're out making an offer subject to council approval. So you know what the offer is. It's $161. The purchase of the real estate is separate from providing assistance with relocation and assistance.
Now, if this was just a residential moving to a residential, I'd probably be against it. But since it's a veterinarian clinic, since I had applied for veterinary school, but unfortunately they said we don't allow women vets. Of course, this is a long time ago. And so I kind of always have felt very comfortable with it.
That out of the corridor budget, Tom?
Yes.
Thank you.
So just so the council is aware, though, if the offer is accepted as is, there won't be any further discussion on this from the real estate transfer and purchase. But there will be additional costs that will be incurred for the relocation, reestablishment, and moving expenses. As was indicated, this building, and it may or may not have lead-lined walls. I don't know that it does. But that's something that we will have to provide and ensure are there when she relocates, because we got to provide a similar and like piece of property. So that'll be a cost consideration that we have, and all those details be worked out with our relocation agent, and that's who she was referring to. So I think they're both the city attorney and their attorney and our relocation folks and Ms. Meyer will be at the meetings to make sure that that stuff goes down correctly, as I understand it. So we'll be back with more.
Any other questions or comments? This is Resolution 25564. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Brandt.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 25565, approving a request for Briargate 6th Edition preliminary plat for property located north of Hastings Drive and south of 35th Avenue, abode construction.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. Nothing? Okay, this is Resolution 25565. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Open a public hearing regarding a request for a partial demolition of the rear portion of the structure located at 1038 and 1048 7th Avenue within the Uptown Commercial Historic District per ordinance number 0816 and 10-02. You want to give us an update on this, Tom, to let the public know what we're talking?
Yes, as a part of the code, the properties within our historic districts are required to have a public hearing prior to demolition of any portion of them. So the Bill's Tap, the former Bill's Tap building, has been purchased, and the owner is wanting to remove the back half of the property. It's I wouldn't even say half, but the back portion of the property. It's a white metal sided and skinned area. So this is a public hearing regarding that removal, and then the resolution associated would provide assurance that can actually occur. Generally, we do these for properties that have historic value, and that it provides an opportunity for someone to come forward if there's a desire. Maybe they're demoing the entire property, to say, hey, before you demo this, I'd like to purchase it. It just makes an announcement publicly that there's a demolition permit for a structure that's historically significant. In this case, it's really not going to devalue the historic significance of the building. It's an addition. It's a metal skinned portion of the building. It'll actually probably bring the property more into conformance with its historic structure.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the audience want to speak in favor of this public hearing? Anyone want to speak against this public hearing? Hearing none. Public hearing is closed. Councilman Strnad.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion for approving resolution number 25566, approving a request for a partial demolition of the rear portion of the structure located at 1038, 1048 7th Avenue within the Uptown Commercial District per ordinance number 08-16 and 10-02.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion.
Is this have to go to the preservation?
Or
It
has
has.
has it already gone through?
Yeah. Yes.
It's already been through?
Yep.
Or?
It's already been approved?
Through the HPC, yes.
Okay.
So I have a question. I believe that the person making this request doesn't even own the property yet. So are we able to approve this resolution by someone who doesn't own that property? I don't believe it's closed yet.
I'd have to look specifically at the request that's made, but I think I don't know, I'll look to our legal department a little bit on that maybe, but I think I guess from my perspective, it would, if he has a interest in the property and it's approved, that then when it goes through, it'd be fine. But obviously, we're not doing the demo, so if he does not own the property in the end, then
Doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen, correct? Yeah, because he is the requester of record. So
I guess I just want to make sure that it's okay to approve this before.
But the resolution would allow, it would remain open for the next contingent owner, correct?
correct. Yeah. So the council action will stand, but the permit, the demo permit, once issued, would expire over a period of time. So, it's clearly if someone came back a year from now, we'd probably want to take another look at it. But
The portion being torn down, though, has no historical significance with the building at all. It's either block or tin.
Yeah.
And it would probably keep it off of individual national registry.
I would imagine that it would.
So, and I think, I understood he made the offer subject to being able to tear that down. I may be wrong, but.
I'm not sure. I just know it hasn't closed.
I'd have to verify. I don't have the signatures from the actual request, but he may have made the request as contract purchaser, which I'm assuming he did. Generally, we like to get contract purchaser and owner, but I just don't know if that's how it was applied for at this point.
That answer your question?
As long as
I guess what I would say is if in the event that he doesn't own it in the end, we may want to bring this back and figure out something different.
Sure.
I don't know. It may be just best that it's left standing too, less that the demolition permit opportunity is left available for the next person, because it certainly doesn't contribute to the historic structure. So. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments on this? Okay, this is Resolution 25566. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. This is Ms. Pazur.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 25567, approving a purchase agreement for property located at 1195 6th Avenue related to the Marion Library Project, L&M Holdings.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Discussion on this.
How much?
$345,000.
Tom, why don't you, for the audience, let them kind of give a description of where these properties are.
So the property under consideration right now is ABC Daycare, which is right there.
Yeah.
But right across the street. It's in the block between City Hall and Library. I think after tonight's meeting, if both of the properties, this and the next item, which is Sherry Wheeler property, if those two are both approved tonight, we will have ownership of all the properties in the block, excluding the one duplex just behind ABC Daycare. So, and I think as the council's been updated and as we've kind of went forward, as our long-range plan is to create the city campus or civic campus between the library and the city, with this area being available for public parking, hopefully in the future, or a potential library project or something. So that's been kind of how we've been proceeding. I think council action for proceeding with acquisitions and approving those has kind of been perpetuated. So that's why we've been contacted by property owners and made contact of property owners when the properties are available. So,
what's the assessed valuation?
This is based on the appraisal. So we did an appraisal. So this is
which was
$345,000. So we offered the appraised value.
Okay.
So there's
no more, no less.
So there's no moving on this. They're already.
No, so the business they went out of business for whatever reason. They knew the city was interested in the property, said, hey, we're going to put this up for sale. Would you be interested in purchasing? We said we would. We did an appraisal on the property. This was the appraisal came back at, and that's why we're proceeding in this manner. So it was a voluntary acquisition.
You know, that used to be, on that location, used to be a boarding house. And a long time ago when it went up for sale, which was like under $100,000, I had suggested, let's purchase this against, you know, see, nobody listens to me.
Tom, I'd ask again, the funding is corridor budgeted on?
No, this one's not out of the corridor budget. For this one, what we would do is we would anticipate using part of the library local option sales tax project for it, and then we would reimburse that out of the permanent financing when the library project comes together.
Would that be true with the next one as well?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else? Okay, this is Resolution 25567. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Etzel.
Yes, Your Honor. I move to approve Resolution Number 25568, approving purchase agreement for property located at 5020 12th Street related to the Marion Library Project. This is Sherry Wheeler.
Second.
Moved and seconded. We're going to have a show and tell.
Well, I knew you guys would ask more questions, so I thought I'd at
How
least
much?
provide a drawing.
How much?
91.
I normally put the proposed purchase amount in the resolutions. I will do that in the future for you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Pazur.
I would appreciate that.
So this property, the one we just spoke about, L&M Holdings, ABC Daycare is here. This is the property that is, if everything goes, or everything is approved this evening, this will be the only property within the block that is privately held. This is 12th Street, 11th, 5th, and 6th. The property that's under consideration right now is the Sherry Wheeler property at 520 12th Street. This property is currently valued at $71,500. The owner had contacted us with regard to the property and stating that she had an alternative home that she could move into, and she'd be willing to sell this property and move into that, but at the assessed value, that would not work. So she would stay and sell the other property that she had been bestowed in lieu of moving. In that instance, if we proceeded in this library, and the library came here, or we desired to purchase this property sometime in the future for a public use, we would be in a position where we would have to do what we've been talking about with regard to the vet clinic, in which we'd have to do an appraisal of the property and pay relocation assistance, and potentially have to pay a housing differential payment, which is the value of the house now versus the value of a home of similar and like comparison. And if there's a discrepancy in the price, we'd have to provide some assistance with that. Based on the conversations that we've had in the past with owners in a similar situation, we've went with the 130% of the value of the property. This property, as I said, was assessed at $71,500. I had identified to the owner that just based on the assessment, because we don't have an appraisal and there's a desire to move quickly, that 130% of that value would be $92,950, and that's the number that I'm bringing to the council this evening with regard to the purchase of this property.
And that would be library lost also?
And there won't be an appraisal on this. This is
No, at this point, the desire was to get it, move quickly.
The other thing, just to jump in, that I would point out is to do that, the property owner actually will have to sign a waiver of their rights under 6B in order to be able to do this. So unlike a lot of projects where you get involved in the housing differential payment and then there's a relocation payment, this is a one and done. It's all tied to the real estate transaction. There's not going to be relocation. There's not going to be housing differential or anything like that to deal with.
Any other questions for Tom or anything?
Cheapest property we bought.
Not hearing any. This is Resolution 25568. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries. Councilman Brandt.
I make a motion to approve resolution number 25569, approving a memorandum of understanding regarding an exchange of property between the City of Marion and GLD Properties, LLC, generally located at 2823 7th Avenue, former Prince Ag property.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Discussion. I'm not saying any more tonight.
Were there any questions that you had with regard to the agreement, or would you like me to go through it, or what would you like from information
He didn't
from me?
hear the discussion.
I didn't hear, are we exchanging front for back?
Well, there's values established within the agreement regarding from the appraisals, yes. Yep. I think the key in the discussion at previous meetings was that the council would like to see the development site and what's being proposed prior to a transfer, and that's what we're kind of outlining here, or as a part of that. So.
Had 2 calls this week at very bad timing for me, both asking about tearing that building down.
Yes. The the owners would like to get started. Just before this meeting, I had a meeting with their engineer to talk about the site, and one of the things they're trying to do is figure out how they can get the building removed and start bringing in dirt to grade the site for development. Probably won't have any buildings in the ground this fall, but they're looking at having footings in the ground in the spring. So.
For what?
Commercial development. This is one of the.
For a specific building there already?
Yeah, they've got proposals in for layouts, but they're not formalized at this point.
Okay.
Now we do, as the council's aware, and maybe for the public's knowledge, this is the location of the area where a brownfield tax credit was granted by the state. Brownfield Grayfield tax credits were granted by the state in the amount of $1 million. That use was specifically tied to a hotel, so that's what's being discussed with the developers at this point. So.
My question is, why would they put footings in now if we haven't approved anything to?
No, there are no footings till spring. So we'll be working that out over the next 6 months. That's why there's no footings.
Did I hear hotel mentioned?
Yes.
Did I hear that? Now, are we talking about a company coming in and building this hotel, or what?
Yes.
So the city will not have any financial...
If there's any city participation, you guys would be the ones that would direct that.
I'll write a check.
Perfect.
You will?
No.
You're
Rob, I won't.
They're scheduled in December to change beds and work on maid service and it.
Okay.
Wow. Tough crowd. Okay, this is Resolution 25569. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, motion carries. Randy.
Get him, Chief.
Yes, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve project calendar approving plats of survey related to the 2015 Central Corridor Improvement Project, 26th through 31st Street as follows. Resolution number 25570 approving plat of survey number 2053. Resolution number 25571 approving plat of survey number 2052. Resolution number 25572 approving plat of survey number 2055. Resolution number 25573 approving plat of survey number 2091. And E, resolution number 25574 approving plat of survey number 2092.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Plats, and more plats.
Yes.
Discussion. Well, why don't you give us what you're talking about here, Tom?
Yes, and I figured there's questions, so I thought I'd just provide the illustration of what we're talking about here. So the city, for a reference perspective, this is 7th Avenue coming through here currently, so Unity Point, Hy-Vee Drug, the roundabout that's, I keep saying that this is the former Marion Iron site, but I should say it's the location of the roundabout on the east end of 7th, because you can see it when you drive by. So this is representing that area. As you'll recall, the roundabout is going to bisect the former Marion Iron site, and it'll create quite a few different pieces. As the roadway comes through here from the old railroad site, it also creates a number of different pieces. And we've been entering into development agreements with developers east of the roundabout, essentially saying, this is a piece of property, it's got an appraised value. As a part of your development, we would offer this as a part of the incentive package for development of the property. So we were just talking about an MOU with GLD. They own this property here, and the property hatched is the area that we were talking about doing an exchange for, with the yellow being the right-of-way we need, and the hatched area being the area that we currently own and we'd like to see redeveloped into something commercially. So this plat of survey has been approved. On the agenda tonight is 2055, which is the property just south of the location of the former USDA office. Hunter Properties currently owns that, and they've contacted us regarding development proposals. Nothing's solidified, but we're still working through issues on that. So right now we're looking at development interest in this this entire area has development interest in it right now. We're trying to get the pieces into a position where we can transfer them or sell them. Right now, they're just parcels that are kind of sitting out there. So these are the legal documents, the legal split of the property provided for a transfer. So tonight, we're going to split this property and create Plat of Survey 2055 south of the Marion Iron, or the property owned by Genesis now, former Marion Iron. There's a parcel that's going to be split out 2053. The property south is can't even read my own writing, but here, and then 2092 and 2052. So these parcels are going to be created. They're going to be a legal document for transfer. We are not transferring anything with this action. This is just creating the parcels for future transfer. We'll be back and we'll have a acquisition plat for this, an acquisition plat here to acquire the right-of-way for the road. So there's going to be some land exchanges, and we'll have to do those in the appropriate manner. But at this point, we're just trying to get the parcels split out. So that's essentially what we're doing. The next meeting, I'll probably bring the acquisition plats. And then when we sell the property, any of these pieces, we're going to have a public hearing because it is public property. So there'll be a longer process for each of those pieces. Any questions on that? I just wanted there to ensure that everybody knew that we were just creating the parcels for transfer but not transferring.
I do have a question, Tom. I'm still going to go back to this temporary easement that we have on that 7th Avenue. At what point will we have to negotiate that to acquire that road before we open that up to the public? What is the timeline on that?
We're hoping to have that back for the probably the first meeting in October. It'd be nice to have it at the next meeting, but like I said, we were meeting with the development interest prior to today for discussion on that. So.
Okay, because I know that's going to be coming up quickly. I was just curious. Okay, thanks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I guess after Tuesday's meeting, I had a question, Tom, on 2082 and 92, that the walkways for the roundabout go into both of those properties. Is that what I'm seeing there? Is that the crosswalks?
Oh, here?
Yeah, right there.
Yep.
Both of those go into that property, don't they?
Yeah. So the roundabout will have an east leg.
No, the walkways.
No, they're in the right of way, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Where are they? Are they out past that?
They're right along
they're
the curb line.
adjacent.
They're just not showing. It's kind of hard to read on this, but they're right. Their sidewalk is a part of the project.
Okay. What were you saying, Dan?
Yeah, they're adjacent to the pavement.
So it's not something that will interfere, that we'll have to buy back those pieces.
Nope.
That was my thought when I saw that, is we'll sell it and then have to buy it right back for.
Yeah. Yep. So we'll create the pieces, and I would point out that a number of these were negotiated as part of the development agreement, so that we'll start the transfers back to Genesis. This was a part of the development agreement that was approved some time ago. So we'll probably be setting the date for hearings on some of those transfers, but at the next meeting.
For Plat 2092, what's proposed up there?
Well, that will have to come in with redevelopment and after the road's open. But yeah, there's as complicated as this drawing looks, there's a lot more to it legally. So in order for us to sell that, we're going to have to vacate it. So the vacation process is going to take probably 2 to 3 months, as the council's aware. There's a number of processes associated with that. There's also discussion about the vacation of 26th Street that we'll be processing at the same time. So we're really trying to figure out how we proceed with the vacation of an active roadway, which may be a problem. So we're gonna have to kind of come back with a plan for that, and we need to seek some legal advice and just ensure that we're doing everything correctly. So there's a lot of moving pieces in this development area, and then there's construction timelines and purchase agreements coming in at the same time. So there's a lot of moving pieces.
Sure, you put the amounts down.
Can I ask a roundabout question on a kind of off topic, but the southeast leg of that goes nowhere right now. What's the plan for it as of today? Where's it going? Anywhere?
We're gonna try and curve this so it lines up with, is it 26th, Dan?
26th, yeah.
26th Street.
So it will connect into 26th?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And will there be a frontage road that, or not?
All the development plans that we're seeing now include a rear access drive through here that would be private.
Will that come off the roundabout, or is that going to be
So there'll be
off 26th?
It'll come off 26th Street.
26th, okay.
I don't want to draw on my pretty drawing there for you. Sorry.
You got enough lines on there.
Yeah, exactly. So this road will come down here, and then there'll be an access point off there.
Okay.
26th Street, we're anticipating to be fairly low traffic, primarily serving the access to the back of the commercial.
I'll drive it every day, probably getting home. So
perfect. You get your own private drive.
Yep.
So since we'll ask an off comment, back up on 7th Avenue, that is a two-way in and out coming into that on 7th Avenue or on the west.
Yeah. There's no
one-way.
No, absolutely not.
Okay. Somebody asked me about that when they saw that.
Yeah, no one ways in, no restricted left, or only by virtue of going in and out, but there's no restricted access.
Okay. Any other comments on the plethora of plats?
Plethora of plats.
that's good.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion's carry.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution 25575, approving a purchase agreement for property located at 3600 Winslow Road, Marion, Iowa, associated with Tower Terrace Road construction. And this comes from the Patters.
Second?
Discussion?
How much?
Well, this one is the one that is a little more difficult to describe the how much. This property is currently in the alignment for Tower Terrace Road. It lies west of Winslow, so it is directly in the alignment of the roadway. So at some point, the owners know, and we've been in contact with them for a period of time, that we're going to need to acquire their property. We had an appraisal done on the property a few years back, and it was valued at $198,000. It's a 1-acre lot, wooded along Winslow Road. The owners we've been talking about the acquisition and time frame, and how this will come together, and we don't have a specific time frame for Tower Terrace Road. So as an owner, they're wanting to set themselves up so that they're not pushed out. All of a sudden, the road's being put in. They got to figure some things out. So we were looking at providing an offer to extend it out a couple years. Just say this is a standing offer. If you find something, then you can move quickly. And that's been the conversation in the last couple months. It came to light in the last, I think probably about the last 2 weeks or week and a half, that they have found a piece of property that's on pretty much what I'd call a short sale. And they'd like to move on that offer that they've made on the property, but the owner of the property they're buying needs an answer by tomorrow. So they came to me and said, listen, this is the situation. We haven't had an updated appraisal, but out in this area, what we've been doing, similar to the Wheeler property, is offering 130% of the appraised value, less any 6B processing. So essentially, you waive your rights to 6B, you get 130% of the value. And that's the exact same thing we did with the purchase of these two properties, as you recall, probably 6 months ago. So we don't have an appraisal. They're in the audience. They may have an update. On Tuesday, said that they may have an update on the number, and maybe they do. Okay. So there's no number, but realizing that making an offer on appraised value and not knowing that is a little difficult, the alternative would be that this doesn't go through, and then we do an appraisal, make them the offer, do the relocation, and then they are also in a situation where they don't have a property to find. They'll have to start their search over. So, in staff's opinion, it would be in our best interest to move forward with a purchase agreement based on the appraised value plus 130%, and just move forward with that. And then they can at least be able to have that in their hand, knowing that the councils and the city is willing to provide for that when they go forward and purchase the property. Essentially, if they don't have any kind of indication that that can happen, they're not going to be able to purchase the property that they desire to purchase tomorrow. So we would continue to move on a purchase agreement if the council so chooses to move forward. And we definitely recommend that we do this. It's a lot cleaner and easier to move forward on a straight purchase than go through relocation assistance and all of the process that creates.
You said a term in there. You said short sale. They're purchasing a short sale?
I don't know if it's a real estate short sale, but the owner of the property has said you've got till Friday.
So it's not a short sale that they're buying? No. Okay. That makes a big difference.
Okay. So.
Any discussions on this then with that information?
So, Tom, you're like 260, is that?
If that's the thing.
Yeah,
Based on the existing appraisal, yeah, it'd be about 260.
I was thinking 250, but
Yeah.
So the assessed value is 165.6, right?
Correct.
take that into consideration now.
But we did, because we approached, this has been the kind of the problem is we thought we were going out here doing a project a few years back, so we went out and we talked to everybody. We had appraisals done, and then it didn't really fall through that was the way it was going to roll out. So, the owners have been sitting there kind of waiting, is the city going to do the project, when we're going to do the project. So that's why there's been some, hey, just if we're going to have to move at some point, we would rather know when we're going to move. So let's just get it going. So that's why we're in the situation we're at. But like I said, the appraisal was completed, I think, 4 years ago. So
That'd be the last piece we need there, Tom?
there's two other pieces. There's a home here. And then there's a little piece here.
That second one's vacant, though, isn't it, Tom? There's no structures on it.
Yeah, this has got a home on it, and this has got a structure. This could, this could be a partial or a whole. I think the owners have indicated they'd like to be purchased. Not to convolute the issue on this purchase, but that home, the only access in after Tower Terrace Road would most likely be the bridge over Indian Creek, which is a public road. So maintaining a small public bridge for one home gets a little pricey. So the idea would be, and it also is a restriction on Indian Creek. It was never built to be a functional bridge for ever and ever. So realizing that Tower Terrace would go through and that the roadway would go away. So ideally we would acquire that property, remove the bridge, and allow Indian Creek to free flow through there. So yeah, there's a lot of, as with all projects these days, it seems like there's a lot of pieces to this one as well.
This one to me just seems a little loose, and just because I see these transactions just like everyone else does, but we're banking that the appraised value is higher. But yet, are we agreeing to the appraised value? All we're doing is agreeing to a purchase agreement that's being left open as a checkbook, and I get that. I understand that. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying the appraiser's going to come back at higher, but what if the appraiser comes back lower? These are two huge, heavily weighted issues weighing on an appraisal. Mm-hmm. Would we have been better off writing this to say the agreement to be at the 130% of appraised value rather than just leaving it open?
No, that's what it would be, 130% of the appraised value. That's the way the offer's structured.
Okay, so that is what,
That's the conversation that we've had with the Patters, is that
Okay.
it's 130% of the appraised value.
okay.
Yeah, that's the open ending is the appraisal. I mean,
Right, I understand, yep. And I totally understand the circumstances. The way it's worded here, it doesn't say that. It's vague to the point of just a purchase agreement, obviously, so I'm just.
Is the purchase agreement actually written yet?
It's drafted upstairs. You guys do not have a copy of it, no.
Has it been approved by?
I'm drafting it for review by legal before I present.
And they need it tomorrow, though, right?
Well, I think with they're going to
Council
take the
motion.
action. Yeah, that would be their action.
Would it be worth adding a not to exceed number into this?
Well, I think it is what it is. I mean, we do these transactions every day on appraised values, so, I mean.
130%,
Right.
I'm just throwing that out.
Right, no, I understand. From our perspective, as a fiduciary responsibility to the, it's, to me, this is, I deal with contracts every day, and this is not what you see. So I'm just a little, and I get it, I totally understand it. I'm not against it, I'm just, we don't know what that number is. So I'll leave it at that, so.
That's like I said on Tuesday. For them, we need to do it, or they're going to be stuck there, and they're not going to be able to sell the house. I mean, it's knowing that the road's coming through. It's kind of
right. I guess what's probably putting a whole burr in this thing is
the dollar amount.
The pushing it into the corner and saying it's got to be tomorrow. That's not our transaction. That's your transaction, and
that's real estate.
Yep, that is real estate.
Let's see how you really feel. I call the question, Your Honor.
Okay. This is for Resolution 25575. All those, are you guys?
I'm sorry.
Okay. This is for Resolution 25575. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes. Councilman Nutt?
Okay. This is resolution number 25576, authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement with the Iowa Department of Transportation regarding a transportation alternatives grant for the Seymour Trail project.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Questions?
This was not discussed on Tuesday, was it?
I don't think so.
It's not, it's not one of the dark.
No, it was on the agenda, but it was not started for discussion, no.
Well, maybe
So, but
give
this
us-
has nothing to do with the RTA grant? The,
No.
No, this is Seymour Trail.
all right.
It's an agreement with the DOT to whether we want the funding or not. It's for the funding related to Seymour
You know
Trail.
that movie, the Money Pit, that keeps, they keep pouring money into the house? That's what's happening with this trail thing.
No.
Any other discussions on this?
No.
Hearing none. This is Resolution 25576. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No?
Motion carries. Councilman Brandt.
I make a motion directing staff to proceed with amending the zoning code to address the recreational vehicle parking.
Second?
Questions? Comments?
Directing staff to proceed with amending.
This is your one-pager, right, Tom?
Correct.
On type 6 font.
So this is just us approving the change of the draft.
No, this is directing staff to move it through for approval. So you'll get whole nother
Okay.
review. We just want to make sure that the full council wants us to, I mean, we don't want to go forward with the draft and then have it come back and, 4 people say, I don't know why we're doing this, we don't need to do this. This is just getting direction from you to amend the code. It may change between now and then. May change.
The draft may change between now.
Correct, because there are going to be public hearings at P&Z and City Council again, and a couple hundred people will weigh in, I'm sure. So there'll be a lot of conversation moving forward. We just want to make sure that as we move forward, that we're being directed by council to do so, and this isn't just staff out there doing it. So,
according to that ordinance, Tom, if we have someone who is legally going to pour a pad, I would assume engineering and the stormwater people approve those, Dan, because you are going to have more water runoff from a pad in a side yard with a neighbor there. How do we handle that?
All residential properties have a flat fee, so we would not do any regulation or fee change having to do with residential properties.
Well, I know that, but I'm thinking of the water running on the neighbors is what I'm...
We do not regulate hard surfaces within residential properties. If you'd like us to, we can.
If it were between the houses, though, is what I'm thinking.
Still would not. Water running from one private property to another private property is a civil matter, has nothing to do with governance by the city. Deal with it every day.
We don't engineer it, though.
Nope.
So do we. As insurance industry.
Right. Yeah, we do not provide that service for the public, for the private individual.
Dry basement today and a driveway next door tomorrow means a wet basement potentially for that individual. I understand what you're saying.
Our building code and our zoning code allows for that to be done.
Many cities will provide or require a permit for flat work on a residential property. So like if you're pouring it up to, or they'll reduce the side yard for hard surface. You can pave, under our current code, you can pave to the property line. What we generally do when we get a call is to make sure they don't tilt the drain towards their adjacent property. But like Dan says, we get calls, weekly?
Every day.
Yeah,
Every day.
of water.
We try to assist where we can, but we're not going to go out and do engineering for them. We don't provide
There's
that
an
service.
inexpensive, pervious. I know Tom likes gravel parking lots. There's one we call Tom's Lot over here. It absorbs the water.
Yeah.
There are pervious products out there that will
Cost a
provide
lot
for
more.
that. Absolutely. They can be expensive.
Any other questions then on this? Hearing none, all those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Strinan.
Yes, Your Honor, I approve for a motion to approve resolution number 25577 of support regarding a study to determine the feasibility of forming a regional transit authority, RTA, for the Cedar Rapids metro area.
Moved and seconded. Since Paula wasn't here, would you give a brief on, we had a presentation on Tuesday.
Yeah, basically, one of the things that was done through the CMPO in the last couple of years was a study of the delivery of transit services across the metro area. And one of the recommendations that they had was that as a metro area, we should study the formation of a regional transit authority. DART in Des Moines is the Des Moines Area Regional Transit System. It's one system created by a 2080 agreement amongst all the metro communities. All the various communities have seats on their board, but it's run as an independent system with its own taxing authority. The way that it's done in the Cedar Rapids area right now, it's a service provided by the city of Cedar Rapids using federal dollars, but then we contract with them for the routes that go through the city of Marion. What this is doing is it's allowing the the MPO to use existing dollars in their budget to do the next step of doing that study to determine whether or not it makes sense for us to form an RTA in this area. Our dynamics are a bit different than the Des Moines Metro. I mean, over there where you've got a lot of cities of substantial size, here you've really got Cedar Rapids and Marion, and then there's a significant drop-off down to Hiawatha as far as your population base. I know Councilwoman Pazur had a lot of questions about it. Those questions that she was asking are the ones that would be addressed during the study. What would it cost? What would your level of service look like? How would it be run? What kind of recommendations would they have for governing structure? How many seats might Marion have on a board? All that gets asked and answered during that study. Marion would be assisting with the development of the scope for the RFP for the company that would come in and do that, so we could make sure those items were included in there. Cedar Rapids wants to have them answered as well. But all this really does, and I think Andy probably confused the issue a little bit when he started getting into the MPO vernacular on Tuesday, but when he starts talking about amending their work plan, in order for federal dollars to be spent on something at the MPO, it has to be in their work plan. So they have to take action to put this project into their work plan, to use their existing dollars to do it. It doesn't cost the city anything, but it's a topic that I think is worthy of exploration because it could have some significant benefits for Marion as far as our level of service goes. Right now, we pay for service, but we have no say in how that service is delivered. We don't have any say in how the policy side of the transit service is delivered. An RTA, we would.
Gee, I asked a lot of important questions, didn't I?
He didn't say important. He just said
The one thing I object to is the fact that this can be taxed and bonded. There's just too many bonds out as it is.
I guess the way I see it is that we're paying, we're throwing $250,000 across the city line, and we have no say on what that's being done. And this probably will be a similar type of money you're talking about, and yet we'll have a voice in it. So.
Except that thing is $85,000.
No, that was.
They're paying for it.
That's the government paying for that. We just have to.
The MPO's paying for that, yeah, out of their existing budget.
We're not.
Marion doesn't have any share of that $85,000.
We're not paying for that.
Okay, never mind.
So, anytime we'll have a say in what we're spending money for, I'm for it. So.
Well, sometimes it's best to let somebody else take the responsibility and all the hassle and everything, and just sit back and enjoy it.
Well, to give you an example of the kind of issues that we don't really have any say in, Councilman Draper keeps an eye on the buses that they run through the city, and he objects to the ones that you can't see in from the outside. Right now, we can say we don't like them coming into Marion, but we can't really tell them not to use them. If we're on the board, we could say, when we buy buses, let's not get buses that you can't see in. That's the kind of thing that we can't do now.
Right.
We can, however, give a ticket to someone that have their windows tinted dark on a car. Why couldn't we do that with a bus or two, and maybe they wouldn't come out here anymore? I'm serious. You never know. You cannot tell what's going on inside that bus.
And those are due to the wrapping, the advertising that's placed on them.
Well, how much does the bus company make as far as advertising on that?
Oh, enough to pay for a ticket or two.
Okay, back on subject.
Well, that's a serious matter in today's world, and not knowing what's going on.
I've seen kids and RTAs certainly have advertisement on them as well. So.
Okay.
So this is Resolution 25577. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? It carries.
Okay, Your Honor,
Sure.
I move to approve, although not totally, Resolution 25578, approving a request for a signature of support for the MPO dollars and participation of $200,000 as the match for Tower Terrace Interchange Project, and this comes from the city of Hiawatha.
Second.
Okay. Lon, you want to give what we're talking about here?
Sure. A couple of months ago, we had occasion to meet with Paul Trombino, the director of the Iowa Department of Transportation, to talk about Tower Terrace Road. I've been here for 10 years, and it was the first time we've actually managed to get the director of DOT out here so that we could really help them understand the significance of that project for this area. And what he told us to take a look at is that DOT is right now in the process of adopting their next 5-year plan. The first 3 years of that plan are already pretty well set. Those projects are actually already underway. Right-of-way acquisition, design, those things are already taking place. But the last 2 years of the 5-year plan have some flexibility. And his suggestion was that if we keep talking to them about this project being a regional priority, but there's not regional participation and regional money in it, then it's a really tough sell for it being a regional priority if we're not making it a regional priority locally and demonstrating that by putting some financial resources behind it. And so what we've done is we've worked with the participating jurisdictions and the CMPO to take a look at when we might be able to put a regional project forward. And 2021 looks like a good opportunity for us to have all the participating jurisdictions contribute some dollars to the CMPO, and that in turn will leverage about $3 to $3.5 million of CMPO money. That is what can draw in an additional 15 to 18 million from the DOT to actually get the interchange built. I will admit that this is kind of a sea change in regional projects around the area. We have had some smaller examples of it. I think the C Avenue or the Tower Terrace Road extension between Albernet and C is a cooperative project between Cedar Rapids, Marion, and Lynn County to get that piece done. Prospect Meadows is being funded by Marion, by Lynn County. Cedar Rapids has pledged up to $1 million. So there are examples of this that are coming up around the area. But this is really the first one related to a transportation project that we've seen come forward. But DOT has never really had that philosophy that if you showed us that this is a priority, that we will come in and help you get it accomplished. It's always been a case that they've really kind of left that up to the jurisdictions to pay for it. In talking this over with my counterpart down in Cedar Rapids, the interchanges that were put in over I-35 in West Des Moines were 100% funded by the city of West Des Moines, and I believe Jeff said one of them was $57 million. So for the DOT to even signal that they would be willing to look at this is a huge philosophical change on their end. That's why we wanted to really kind of jump at the opportunity and make sure that we got this stuff lined up so that we could demonstrate to DOT that yes, this is a regional priority. All the jurisdictions are behind it, and we've got some of our own local MPO dollars in it as well.
Okay. Questions? Comments?
I personally think this is a critical piece to the component of Tower Terrace in our future. That's a main artery that's going to run through our community. It's the connection that we need, and it would be nice to see us on the front side of this as a leader of it instead of being a responder to it. So proactive is better than reactive on this particular component to Tower Terrace. That's going to be a vibrant conduit of our city.
Sometimes it's better to be the tail than the nose.
I don't disagree in some cases.
And the fact that we could budget for this in the future, it could come from lost money. We're not writing a check today.
This again too. This is just the commitment of engaging in it. Correct? Am I correct on that, Lon?
Yeah, it would be 2022 budget dollars in all likelihood. In talking with Cedar Rapids, they're looking at road use dollars for it. We'd have that opportunity too after the next census. I mean, there's a lot of different ways it could be done. It could be done through lost. It could be done through road use tax. It could be done through the normal every other year bond in 2022. So there's a lot of financial alternatives.
I think as much as this road goes through there, it'd be that's the key component.
Right.
Otherwise it just becomes a glorified Boyson Road or a county home road or what have you. So that interchange I think is critical. But
well, I see that Marion has invested a lot of money on our side of that road, and if it doesn't go anywhere, that's bad.
Sounds like a political campaign, doesn't it? The road to nowhere.
they could take it out of our salaries by 2020.
Right.
We might be able to come up with that. Right.
Right.
Any,
come close.
no. Any other discussions
Don't
then
give
on?
people ideas.
Any other discussions on 25578? All right, all those in favor of Resolution 25578 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? It carries. Councilperson Edsel.
I move to approve resolution number 25520, approving the Marion Airport tax exemption, tabled 8/18/16.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Comments, questions?
Exactly what is on this property that is being requested to be exempt?
I think there's nothing. Tom, you have your fancy map again that you've shown us?
That was Lon. I think Lon has this fancy
Oh,
map.
was that you? That
I don't
was
have that one in here with me. I don't know if Amanda can call it up. Have your connector.
Well, if this land is requested to be exempt, and it gets passed, what is to keep a building from being built on that could be taxed?
I don't, if they build something on there, it's going to need permits, and the county's going to know. The county would come out and reassess, I would assume. And if that property, I would assume if that property has something built on it now, the county's going to tax it.
And
They're going to know.
Yeah, what the county is looking at doing is granting the exemption on 11 of the 26 acres that are in it. I'm not sure that they've defined it and said that it's going to be this 11 acres or that 11 acres. Because they were talking about it being the balance of the original parcel, I guess I made the leap to think that it would probably be the piece on the west side. But it's all related to the acreage exemption, and so it doesn't necessarily matter which acres they exempt. And Councilman Brandt is correct. Anything that goes out there triggers a building permit, which triggers county review. They go out and check and see. Their determination on whether it's tax exempt or not really is based on the use of the building, what it's being used for. If it's being used for public purposes, then it can be considered to be tax exempt. A future FBO building or something like that might be on the private property could be considered tax exempt, but hangars, things like that, typically would not be.
Well, it still bothers me that this is not what had been agreed on when it came up initially. There was gas tax was supposed to be coming to the city, and we haven't seen any gas tax. Have we?
I don't think it was gas tax.
Yeah, gas tax isn't something we have the ability to collect. We've never had the ability to collect that, and it wasn't discussed with the original terms of lease.
It wasn't a municipal airport, but that was part of the deal. And I don't know. I almost would like this tabled again, just because there's certain things that I'm trying to find out about it.
It was the references to the fuel tax were granting the city the ability to tap into the DOT grant funding. The DOT grant funding comes exclusively from the state aviation fuel tax that's collected. It's like road use tax in that it's protected to be used only for aviation-related projects. So the DOT gets $3.5 to $4 million a year that they collect out of that they have to use for airport improvements. As a privately held airport, it was not eligible for that. When we bought the runway, that made the runway and the existing FBO structure out there eligible for that funding, but it wasn't an automatic allocation, and it was not the fuel tax that was collected directly from our airport. It was to provide that eligibility to the statewide pool.
That crash that took place in Georgia yesterday, who would technically be liable for that? The owners of the airport?
In the terms of our lease, we carry insurance on the airport by virtue of owning it, but the FBO operator carries the primary coverage for ours.
If I may, in that situation, the pilot would be liable for
name and address.
I'm sorry, I'm Cole Norton. I'm the airport manager. The pilots would be liable for any dangerous operation that they did. It's in the air. It's federal airspace, anything from the ground up. It has nothing to do with the city when you take off and you're in the air, unless it's something that I mean, I can't even think of an example. And to clarify the gas tax, when I go to buy fuel, I pay a ton of tax on it. But it goes, like Lon said, to the state, and that money is used. So the city of Marion, like they just did, can apply to get grants from money collected on gas tax. So we are paying taxes that you just tapped into. You just got $75,000 from the state, and part of that money came from the taxes we paid.
75,000. What was that?
We just got notification from the DOT that an application that we had submitted for runway design was approved. So they're out of the 2017 allocation, we would expect to receive about $63,750.
Well, now this is in addition to that 100,000 that I asked you about on Tuesday?
That was from last year's funds. That was for the airport layout plan and the runway design. Or I'm sorry, this one was for the runway design. The last one was for airport layout plan and zoning ordinances.
I don't know if you guys are confused about this. I am. And I would like to look into it a little more.
Are there any other questions you have besides the gas tax?
I have lots of questions, and you're not going to want to hear them.
The key difference is that, a municipally owned airport can apply for that funding. When the Waltons were running the airport privately for all those years, every airport has to collect those taxes. So all of the pilots, everybody that was using the Marion Airport was paying into that pool for the entire time that the airport has existed, and those taxes have been levied, but we were never able to get any of them back. By virtue of us buying the runway, we can now tap into that and bring some of that money back to Marion. Whether or not we're bringing in as much as is collected really depends on how busy the airport is and how active we are in fuel sales. But before, everything was being collected and leaving, and none of it was ever coming back. And now we actually have been pretty successful so far in bringing it back in the first 2 years that we've owned the airport. But I can do a memo and just outline the grants that we received from the DOT so you can see how those dollars lay out. The first year there were 3 that we were awarded. One was for the airport layout plan, one was for a land use map amendment and comprehensive plan update, and then one for updating our zoning ordinance to reflect the airport being.
That was
the
100,000.
It's about 100 between all 3 of them.
Okay, now, if there was a crash that was on the ground, then the pilots would not be responsible, right?
I definitely think they would be if they were to run into something or wreck the airplane. A pilot's required to know all information available before the flight, before they take off. The insurance company would go back and subrogate against the pilot or the instructor of the aircraft.
Let me ask you a question. What is your experience as far as managing an airport?
Well, I've been at this airport for 7 years, this specific airport, and I'm growing with the airport. I studied business at Kirkwood, and I learned everything I know from people that did it for 30 years before me.
But you actually have not any experience managing an airport, per
No,
se.
but neither has the city. So I'm not sure how.
A snappy response.
Okay, back on subject here for the tax exemption line. You have the picture up here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you for.
Yep.
All right. So show where the tax exempt land is.
The runway right now is all tax exempt by virtue of being owned by the city. The next parcel over is about 26 acres in size. Lynn County is willing to exempt 11 of those 26 acres. It's really up to Lynn County which acres they would choose to exempt, since it's not a parcel exactly 11 acres in size. They're just willing to do that because that's the balance of the property from the original parcel that had the runway and all the buildings on it.
I'd like to clarify one thing, though. Might help you out.
Yeah, name and address there.
Jeff Woodard, 2079 Blue Heron Drive, Springville. It's my address, but I'm in Lynn County, actually. This is exactly what Jan had before the city bought it. She was exempt on the runway, exempt, the county recognized this 11 acres as public use. And when we made the transition, that went away when the line went through, it just fell off. So we're asking for exactly the way it was before the city bought it. There was 11 acres exempt because that just showed back up on the tax, which if you look at it, you can look at it a lot of different ways. The runway is DOT funded, it's considered transportation, that's the highway. Our taxiways and open space are the roads. Well, they're looking at it that way. We have to keep unlike other businesses, we have to keep our buildings so far away from the road that all that ground in between is for safety and for public use. So when planes come in, we don't charge anything for parking or anything. I mean, you got to have access to the hangars. So it's the same thing as what Jan had before the city bought it. Exact amount of acres. If that helps you at all.
No,
it ain't really anything that, we just, so.
And then it's like for this tax exemption, anything that you
they just
put it on it, anything you do for improvement in this area.
Yeah, that's completely separate.
Taxable.
Yeah, they're not going to let us build on the 11 acres and not tax us.
Right.
Believe me, that'd be nice, but
yeah,
it's not going to happen. It's the grass strips. We use grass for tie down, and we use it for taxiing. So it's the taxiways, which are our roads at an airport. So it's just like people aren't taxed for the road out in front of their house. It's pretty much the same difference. And that was discussed and passed by council years ago when Janet Perry first got this exemption. So,
something too to add to this is what they're trying to explain on this is this land that has no value to the business, kind of like CRP in agriculture. So if you set it aside and you do nothing with it, but do some things that are going to be relative to the DNR and things of that nature, they give you an incentive to set this aside, and that's what this is. So it's like he said, Jan and Walt did this for years, or Perry did this for years. You got to have that access, and you can't build on it, and they're just asking for an exemption of what they can't do anything with. And you said, Lon, the tune to this, let's just boil this down. This is where the phone calls are all about, and that is what's the dollar amount? You said it was about $7,500?
About $6,700.
$6,700 is what the dollar amount is. So it's complicated to understand, and I totally agree with you. This is a very unique piece of property, and understanding how those go back. Just not to keep us belonging, but anytime there's a judgment from a liability standpoint, the owner of that property, whether it's vehicles or commercial or whatever, there has to be negligence. So if the runway was not maintained and there was a bump and there was a break, a crack, and that aircraft were to become part of it, insurance has dealt with what's called perils of loss. It always goes back to what caused the loss. So that sometimes will help clarify some of this stuff. Airplane just stalls in mid-landing. That's not it's not the airport's problem. It's not the city's problem. That's an aircraft issue.
But the only problem is, though, when people decide, we're going to do this civilly, then everything goes out the window.
All bets are off on a civil deal. But again, it always goes back to the negligence. There has to be proven without a doubt that there was negligence on the property owner's perspective. We deal with that in everyday house fires, automobile accidents, all of that.
But
it all goes back to that.
You're the agent for this.
I understand.
We are the responsible.
I understand. No, I just wanted to answer your question because that keeps coming up.
And I appreciate that.
Nope.
It would be nice if you could have explained it like he did.
No, that's no problem. So, Your Honor, we'll let you get back to.
Well, I have a question too. So the $6,700, that's how much they're going to save in taxes, or is that how much the city is not going to get through taxes?
That's how much would be saved. Our share of that would be 35% of the $6,700. Approximately.
So that's how much they're saving in taxes a year.
That's county, school,
Kirkwood,
everyone. Yep.
Gotcha.
And just to clarify, to build on what Randy was saying, I don't want to sidetrack this any further, but the city has additional protections beyond a private property owner because we have to have what's called constructive notice. We've got qualified immunity against negligence unless we were notified that there was a problem and then we failed to take action. That's why if there's a pothole next to a curb and someone steps off of it and twists an ankle, if we don't know that the pothole was there, we're not liable. If they called public service and we didn't get there for 3 weeks and fix it, then we're liable. So cities enjoy additional protections beyond what private operators do that I would think it would be very difficult to prove that unless we were deliberately negligent, we're covered.
Okay, everyone,
No, but that's okay.
okay.
Just, Mary Lou, you have questions on the taxes and how much the city's getting back and stuff, but I don't think, from the gas and stuff, but I don't think that has anything to do with them getting the tax credit for that land. I mean, if you want to look into what money the city's getting from the airport, by all means, Lon can get that stuff to us, but I don't think that has anything to do with what we're voting on tonight.
And what would be helpful is that from the staff perspective, we answer questions and then it seems like everything kind of diverges over here and we get questions here and questions here. If there are questions, it would be nice to understand the full scope of what the questions are so that we can answer them so that we're not rehashing it every 2 weeks or every time something comes up with the airport. If there are questions, let's just get them out there and let us know the full scope of everything you want to know and we'll answer it. But I kind of feel like from the staff side that we're aiming for a moving target because we answer the questions that are brought up and all of a sudden a bunch more questions are brought up that may be kind of tangentially related. So I think I would ask that if council members have questions, email them to me, send them to me, drop it off, whatever, and we'll do a full report and answer any questions under the sun that you've got.
I agree with that, but also Randy and I were not up here when any of the airport stuff happened.
Right.
So we don't really know a lot about it.
Right, I'm starting to understand. You keep talking about a gas
Things
tax.
might come up.
My people keep telling me we were told that we were going to get 10 cents on every gallon. Well, there's a difference between 10 cents on a gallon of fuel versus a tax.
I've heard
So
that
that's
too.
I'm very confused on, the whole. From what I'm understanding, again, these are the phone calls from the citizens of saying that we were supposed to, the proposal was we were supposed to get 10 cents on every gallon of fuel.
That was never part of the discussion.
I heard 5 cents is what I've heard. So
that's why some of these things don't come before staff because we don't know what there's a lot of myths out there. So but I'm paying attention to what's transacting here between tax, fuel tax and profits of sales per gallon. So big difference. Big difference when you're talking about 10 cents on a gallon versus a tax. There's total different conception. So anyway, I digress.
It'd be worth having a 3 o'clock work session meeting and talk about all of this.
Yeah, and especially if there are questions about it, like I said, get them to me and we'll look at doing a 3 o'clock session and make sure everything's answered.
I don't have a lot of questions about it, and that's just because I don't know the ins and outs of an airport and exactly.
Andy, would that help you? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think any education would help because like I mentioned on Tuesday, the we's and days, it's very confusing. What part are we talking about the city and what part of this are we talking about the Luxair? And it's complex.
If you're talking about a 3 o'clock work session where we get kind of filled in on the whole scope of the airport, fantastic.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, perfect.
So, Lon, if you would talk with the mayor to see if that's something his wishes would be, and let's try to schedule a 3 o'clock meeting and get all the people here, and we'll have it all out on the table.
Yep, that'd be fine.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Now, for the motion, 25520, any further discussion on just the motion? Okay. All those in favor of resolution 25520 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
No.
One opposition. The motion carries. Okay. Councilman Brandt.
I make a motion to approve a hold harmless noise waiver for Oktoberfest, 631 9th Street, September 17th, 2016, 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. Georgia Robinson, Another Road Brewing, 631 9th Street.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Comments? Discussion?
Sounds like a good time.
Sounds like a good time. Can we adjourn and go?
Yeah.
Any other discussion on it then? All those in favor of this motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Council time.
Your Honor, I abstain from that.
You abstain?
Yes.
Oh. But not from going, though.
Well, no. Has to do with the building ownership.
Yes.
I would like to congratulate Dean Wynn, who is the Customer Service Award recipient at Hy-Vee. It said in the last Marion Times that council members and the mayor and all kinds of people, I never got an invitation.
I didn't either.
I mean,
You
did
didn't
you
get
get
an
an invitation?
I got an invitation.
I didn't get an
Huh,
invitation.
I just happened to be out there, and I asked one of the suits that was walking around, just exactly what was involved. And they said, well, he'll get a trip out of this and a ring and all this. He gets to go to all these different meetings, but the big kicker was he's going to have his face on one of the Hy-Vee trucks.
Whoa. Whoa.
Secondly, the crossing light at 19th Street and 7th Avenue for the kids. You telling me that this is an illegal crossing light?
Brian?
I can speak on that. No, what has happened, that got ripped down back in June. We know who did it. We're subrogating against them. We're speaking with a school district to see if they want it back. Right now, I think they're working with planning on a safe school. I'm not sure what that is.
Safe routes to school.
Safe routes to school. And so I spoke with the superintendent at Marion. They want to sit down and reassess some of the crossings, and that's one they want to look at. They're not quite sure if they want to look at putting that back up or not.
Okay,
They're the ones that drove that. They're actually looking at putting a crossing in on South 15th between Starry and the high school. They've said that's kind of their immediate need.
Of course, that really takes care of Francis Marion because
It does, but this is something that it's my understanding the school district drove back then. So before we did anything, we wanted to get their input on that. And with that, they not only ripped the wires down, but they pulled the footings in. And so we have to get a structural engineer out there to reassess that as well. So it's a little bit more involved than what people think, but we're not going to get too carried away if the school district doesn't see that as a vital component to their
I heard it
crossing
was
network.
a Dunkin' Donuts truck that did it.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
they were carrying agricultural equipment.
Oh, okay. Also, in the code of Marion, it's about hunting and discharge of firearms and all this stuff, but bow hunting is allowed. Why? I would think that bow hunting is a lot more dangerous than.
It's something if you want us to address, we can take a look at the drafting an ordinance, but right now bow hunting is allowed on private property with permission of the property owner.
Without or with?
With the permission of the property owner.
Okay, well, as I understand, there's some property off the western part of 10th Avenue that people have come up to the house of the neighbors saying, where's my deer, where's my turkey, and all this. They've been bull hunting and not killing the animal.
Okay.
That's what I hear.
Well, it'd be up to, if you want us to look into restricting bow hunting.
Well, if they restrict even slingshots, I mean.
Slingshots, those are legal on someone's property as long as the projectile doesn't leave the private property.
And paintball guns?
We could go on and on. I'm just.
Well, my front window got hit by one of them, so.
You done?
I'm done.
Yeah? Will?
I don't have anything.
Nothing? Paul?
No, I'm ready to go.
Well, the reason I had a phone call from Nick, he had apparently helped a person this week, and he wanted to give thanks to a department that's reaching higher, as he said. He said, I want to give thanks to Gary Williams and the Marion Water Department crew. You all contributed extra time and attention to a water issue on my property. You went above and beyond your efforts. Thank you all for listening to concerns and your hard work in bringing a solution to the problem. your best, Andrea. So reach higher for the Marion Water Department. Nick wanted to highlight them this week. So any other things before council? If not, we are adjourned. Thank you.